Hey everybody, Andy here, aka Montolio. It's been quite some time. So nice to see you all again. Appreciate you hanging out. Gonna do a vintage preliminary today. As I understand it, Vintage has had a couple of showcase challenges added to the calendar of late, which is a pleasant surprise and just enough to entice me to come back in and play a little bit of Vintage. I have played a sprinkle here and a sprinkle there on some Vintage challenges, but I have played no leagues in the last couple months, as I'm sure my regular viewers are aware of. But that said, I'm going to take in my old trusty Cradlevine today. I'm not really sure how good this is in the current metagame, as I have been out of the loop a little bit, anyways. Yeah, I have been following some of the results, but uh, I think the deck that worries me the most is Squeevine, the Hollow Mind version that runs the 8 squeeze, the Master and the Squeeze. Um, that therefore you can see that I'm a little bit more heavily slated towards Graveyard Hate in my deck. Um, we've got some Mist Mindbreak traps on the board there to help keep up with things like jewel shops, but I think overall this deck has some pretty good chops against the metagame in general. So we're going to see how we do today. This is not a new entity, so I'm not going to go into any detail as to the nuances of this deck, as I'm sure you all know it by now. But yeah, appreciate you hanging out, and we're going to see you in round one. Okay, guys, here we are in round one of the Vintage Preliminary. Looks like we're playing against Jeskai. This hand is a little bit on the clunky side because we've got double powder, but Bazaar of Baghdad is going to help clean that up. We do have some discard equity here. And hopefully we find something to go along with this. Mental Misstep is traditionally quite good against Jeskai. We're also on the draw, so I think that helps as well. I'm going to keep this against my better judgment. I don't think this is a good hand, but when you have Bazaar of Baghdad, it does really help shape things up. So that's pretty decent because it's likely going to point them in some direction as to what I'm playing. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, so that's fairly telling. I'm going to cast it now. Hmm. I was really hoping I'd find a hollow one, Vengevine, or a Root Wallet in the least. I think it's very likely my opponent is playing Wastelands. And that said, I feel like I should probably take a Bazaar here. That was not very good. Anyways, that said, we're just going to keep on plodding along here. This root wallet does have some value here because we have the cradles now to be able to cast the Hex Drinker here. I expect my opponent to cast a Dreadhorde or a Mercurial here, would be my guess. Time Walk is good. Oh boy, that's a really good one. Jeez. Okay. That was vicious. This could indicate that they have swords here. But basically, this is one of the best things that they can do against me. So we just have to hope that they don't have removal in hand, which is unlikely, but maybe that's just a... Okay. Do they have a land? That's the next question. They do. I have the answer for this, but I can't use it because of Lavinia. Well, I can use it. It'll just be countered. Well, I can get this out of range here. One of the risks here for me is I could cast Collector Roof into a Gaia's Cradle here. It's risky to do, though. Like, Collector Roof is not great against what my opponent's doing in general. But I think one of the ways I lose this game, guys, is by exposing my Hex Drinker unnecessarily. And it's possible they're going to have a Wasteland here. They just did their business, but I feel like this is one of my strongest plays in this type of a situation where I don't have much going. I've got to try and beat a Lavinia here. So I think this is the best of a bad situation. Yep, the Mercurial's pretty brutal. Yep. The good news is they've played a land already, and they're not getting wastelanded. That does push my Hex Drinker closer to a Sage mode. But we're in a pretty bad spot here. Yep, can't stop it. I think I just pump here. Get it as close as I can, as fast as I can. I mean, I'm not losing the damage race here, so I'm just going to get in. Take my damage where I can get it. I mean, the only card that really scares me here is Prismatic Ending, and I just lose if they have it. I am very aware that Lurrus could be coming down here soon. And I will Wasteland next turn if need be. A lot of the other Bazaar decks in the meta game are far more cold to Lavinia than Cradlevine is because we have the ability to cast our spells in this deck. And case in point, we were able to cast a Hex Drinker underneath the Lavinia. And, okay. Oh, they do have the Lotus. Okay. Yep. So, I mean, this is the risk of not playing, of being scared of playing the Collector Roof here. I've now enabled Lurrus, and Lurrus is definitely a problematic card for me. My opponent still has a mitt full of cards here. Yep, they're just drawing cards. So I'm probably going to cast Lurrus here, or Collector Roof. I do not have Caracas in my deck. Yep, let's see if they use it. They did not. And that's good for me. Just going to cast it. They probably have a swords up here. I think that's okay. There's not a lot of reason, I don't think, to Bazaar here. I'm going to play it out. Everything just gets countered. Unfortunately, I feel like I need to race here. This is going to put them to 5. They'll go back up to 8 with the Lurrus if they attack. I think this is fine. We just got to try and win. We're still at a somewhat reasonable health place here. Now, if my opponent goes to Wasteland me, my Bazaar, that's different. I will spin there because I don't really have much else going on. But okay, they didn't do anything. That's really fortuitous for me. Now, this is likely to be a big turn for them. Or has the potential to anyways. Yep, I cannot stop an Iconoclast. This is currently, as we stand, a dead card. The bauble does not do anything other than create oil and the soldier token, which is not nothing, but they can't draw the card off it. So they did have the swords, okay. And that's pretty powerful because what it does is it gets through my... the Lurrus now can gain life unaccosted. It's too bad. It's a fair bit of damage coming through here. I am going to lose this race, I think, as we currently stand. I don't see a reason not to Bazaar here. These are all just dead cards in my hand. The hollow one would be really nice. We'll go again. I mean, none of these are phenomenal for me. 1, 2, 3. I can have 4 to hard cast the vine. See if we can find a root wally here. Okay, we didn't. Yeah, just pretty dead here. Wasteland that. We have a chance. It's not good. Let's try. I mean, I think there's a very high chance they have a force in their hand. They do. They're willing to go to 1. We're going to take... They get a token off it. Hopefully the token didn't kill me. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's exactly lethal. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. With really close game 1, guys. Really close game 1. Leave it to our opponent to make the mistake. If they don't attack with everything here, I think we have a somewhat of a chance. But they do have lethal here. Yeah, they see it. Okay. I could see us wanting a dismember. I could also see us perhaps wanting some semblance of endurance. I don't think Besaju's at its best in this match. I also think Force of Vigor is pretty poor in general. Yeah, I think this is where I want to be. Collector Roof is more effective against this brand of Jeskai than traditionally. Okay, this looks like a nice hand. Tabernacle of Pendraveil is the card that scares me. At least in turn 1, but it's very difficult to play around that. I could just play a Besaju into a Hex Drinker. But I feel like I really want to put it to my opponent if I can. I mean, Gaia's Cradle is a nice card. I don't know that it's better than Yavimaya, though, is it? It is specifically against... Gaia's Cradle is better against Tabernacle, obviously, than Yavimaya. But if, I get hit with a Tabernacle, I lose my Blazing Root Wall and my Hollow One. The Gaia's Cradle's not looking very good, right? Like I Besaju into Hex Drinker. They're absolutely going to attack that if they can. I'm going to take the Gaia's Cradle. It takes away one of my opponent's best tools. Would have loved a Vengevine there, but you can't have it all. So, just the way they're F6ing here is telegraphing a tabby here. And then they had it. So we're playing some fair magic here, unfortunately. I don't really think I want to spin. Like, I kind of, to be honest, like all of these cards here. So obviously I wish I took the Yavimaya in this particular situation, but that's okay. All right. I mean, they have the answer there. I'm glad they did it there now versus later. Yep. Just let that go. So I think what we do is we cast the Blazing Rootwalla here. Basking Rootwalla. This is a little less innocuous to get countered than the Hex Drinker here. So then we're going to play Archaea's Cradle and play with the Hex Drinker. If we had to sequence it the other way, this is one of the most dangerous cards my opponent can see out of my deck. They counter that, then we can't use anything for the Cradle, so it has to be played in that particular order. Well, it doesn't, but you're setting yourself up for failure. And so now we have a double threat. Okay, my opponent does have a Swords. Okay. So we are in some trouble here because we're still facing a tab. Like, taking the white source away here is not irrelevant. I realize we're nipping ourselves here with our Mox Ruby, but my opponent looks telegraphing a force here. Do they want to do something about it or not? But it's a pretty big deal for them to use a force on a collector roof here. Like, they would have to extremely highly value that pearl. Okay, they got rid of a spell seeker. And that's not the worst for me, guys, because what happens here is now my Rootwalla in the least beats for 3. And of course I can cast almost anything off the top of my deck. Yep, Luris, okay. Now, we're pretty reliant off the top of my deck here, of note. No, and that's one I cannot cast, but suffice it to say we're going to go about our business here. Would suck if they could just cast it, but I mean, it is what it is. Wasteland, yep. It's pretty good. They can take all my mana away except for my Mox here if they remove this and kill my Rootwalla. Or I meant waste this and kill my Rootwalla. That might have been a better line from my opponent. Ooh, Treasure Cruise, nasty. Okay, we're losing pretty bad now. Strip mine. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I just have to beat down here. It's awful to have to put myself in this spot, but we got to try and win. So there's Luris. Not much I could do about that one. Yeah. People still haven't learned that this is not really an effective card against me. I cannot attack. I don't think attacking their mana is a winning strategy. At least not yet. If I find a collector roof, it's something I would consider. The question is, do I want to take their tabernacle? So they're just, yeah, okay, so they're just rebuying it with Luris. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, well, tabernacle is now looking a little better for me. The wasteland starting to waste their mana here, but let's see. Lavinia, that's pretty nasty. It's too bad that it doesn't really outline what they put where. We'll keep that around. I'm going to cast the Vine here because it'll be the biggest thing on the table. I guess it can trade with a Lavinia, but I can't foresee them wanting to do that. And, I mean, if my opponent wants to tap out to keep all their tokens, I think that's a win for me. They have no interest in doing that. Just smart. Mm-hmm. Can't stop it. Tap the strip mine because I'd much rather use my wasteland than my strip mine. So they have, I guess we just cast this, right? Yep, I like casting the Oof here. It shuts off some of their mana. Their Pearl will be allowed to waste them out next turn. So to me, I think that's a win. Obviously, I wish I had more mana, but it is what it is. Yeah, so now I'm starting to get to a spot where I'm constraining them a little bit. Okay, they do have the swords. Fair enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just taking damage. Okay. Bazaar is not bad. I'm going to go after their mana here, guys. And I realize me getting wastelanded here, in return is not a good look on me, but like if they go after my colored mana sources in Cradle or Boseiju here, but we're hanging around a little bit. That's unfortunate. I really didn't want to see a bobble come down because it's card advantage for them, but nothing I can do there. Yeah, damn. Let's see if they make a mistake and come in at me with Luris. They don't. That would be sweet if they did. Guess I'll sneak this thing in afterwards. I mean, if they have another delve spell, it's bad for me, but like if they have a delve spell, it doesn't look good. They had treasure cruise already. I guess the reason to do it now is so they don't get to bobble. I think I will do that. I think that's worth it. I'm shuffling some decent cards back into their library there, but I think that's all right. Yep. There was no way for me to get the crypt in there too. Once again, they don't want to attack into Luris or my guys because they think I will trade both. I probably would not. Yeah, I'm not keen to discard that, to be honest. I kind of like it as a powerful option, but I think given the type of game we're playing here, it's probably worth me just chilling. I do get burned a little bit if my opponent wastelands me here, but Ooh, that's a good one. This is awkward, right? Because I'm wasting time not spinning my library, but I just think that given we're playing a long game here, it's just worth kind of making sure that I have cards that I can cast that are quality. And Hollow One is not a card that's easily dealt with. Like, my opponent has gone through a number of swords already. Them doing all this digging, though, is probably not great for me. Yep. Now they're just going to start being able to pay for their stuff, but hmm. They get my Vengevine. I realize not optimal in that regard, but I'm just wondering, do I start getting in? I would hate to trade for 3 tokens with one of these. I don't want to deliberate too much. Time is very important right now. Just in the off chance that I'm able to somehow hang around this game. Gonna have 6 here. Like, if I somehow win this game, time could be matter. And my opponent's the one that's got more triggers to do than me because they got the Iconoclast. So that could work in my favor. And to be clear, like, I don't see myself as a favorite in this game by any means, but I am hanging around here. Time walk, yep. Can live with that. Okay, we managed to get ourselves a full minute ahead here on the clock, which is pretty decent for me. Now, this is where it starts to get scary when they're doing stuff like this. Like, I suspect I'm going to get wastelanded here. Maybe not, though. Mox Ruby, okay. What I need to win this game, I'm starting to realize, is a Hex Drinker. And that might be hard for me to accomplish. But let's see. Can't really attack in profitably here. Like, can I? I don't think so. I think we can bide our time here a little bit. Yep, and that's why they had the swords. Yep, that's the perils of shuffling that stuff back in, right? We're now all of a sudden in a bad spot. They just drew another 3 cards off the card that I shuffled back in with their endurance, but yuck. Two Lavinias, 2 swords gone. There's the third there. They're starting to wind up for a swing here by the looks of it. Okay, I mean, let's get going here. Hmm. I'm just trying to probably clock my opponent out at this point. I'm just trying to hang around and ensure that I've got enough lands to do my stuff to cast my spells. And the Yavimaya Cradle does matter here. Yeah, we're going to gain the life. So we're now in a spot where my opponent can come through here with their little guys if they choose to pay for them all. And I can't profitably block them. But I don't think that will last for too long before I find a creature that's robust enough to fight them. Opponent just has no interest. I mean, that's good for me, I guess. My opponent has used all their swords now. There is that. There it is. They probably take my Bazaar, is my guess. They could take my Cradle, though. Yep, Cradle does work here. That was why I took this Yavimaya here. Basically, what I've done this entire game is I've leveraged Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale against my opponent. I have been able to pay all the way through. Now, yes, I'm not the beatdown here. There's going to come a time here soon where and probably as soon as right now, where my opponent's going to realize they have to start paying for their tokens because I'm at 32 life here. My opponent no longer has any removal, or I shouldn't say that. I don't know what they have for removal, but so they did pay for one there. They figured out the Tabernacle line with the Yavimaya. Mercurial, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. Got my Bazaar. Are they going to take my Root Walla here? Interesting. They're going to choose Bazaar or Blazing Root Walla. I could have pumped in response, but I didn't want to trigger them off to it. They're just literally going to choose Bazaar. But there was something to be said to choosing Blazing Root Walla here. Let's see, they're coming in. You got your damage in. Well, I can't cast the Endurance here if I pay for both of these, but I am going to pay, and hopefully I draw one. It's a pretty good one. I think I'm just going to hard cast it now. How am I doing on time? I'm 2 minutes ahead. I can think about this for a minute. I'm going to do it in their upkeep. I realize that they can hard cast Force of Will a little bit easier here, but I won't let it go to their actual main phase. These triggers are eating up my opponent's clock, guys. They're now paying for their stuff, and they're coming in full swing here. If this resolves my Endurance, it's pretty good for me. And it's bad for me if this doesn't resolve, right? But take their graveyard away. Now this is something that blocks. I did shuffle Swords back in there, of note. They got to kill their Tabernacle here. And they did. Opponent's feeling some pressure here. That's 2 untaps, tap, untap. Iconoclast is good. I can't block the Mercurial. And they didn't use it there. Misstep's not bad here. Protects against the Swords. Now, they have enough time here to pull this out. It's going to be close. I've got this misstep here, which is not the worst. Oh, they're coming. Wow. Taking a fair bit of damage here, but Here's to hoping, guys. Mm-hmm. Okay. They have 5 seconds to finish me off here, which I don't think is going to happen. It's 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think that's fine. All right, guys, there you have it. Obviously, don't believe I was winning that. But that was an example of when you play these decks that are creating tokens, whether it was, first Young Pyromancer, then Mentor, now third Path Iconoclast with Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale. Not only do you not gain value from those creatures, typically it's a Clock Eater. And my opponent had triggers with their Mercurial, they had triggers with their third path, they had triggers that were just left, right, and everywhere with this deck, and it ended up killing my opponent. I don't believe I was going to win this game, or this match for that matter. But that said, guys, appreciate you hanging out. That was a real nail biter. We're going to see you in round 2. Okay, guys, here we are in round 2 of the Vintage Preliminary. I believe Funky Monkey plays the same deck as we do here. They're playing Cradlevine, but we're going to keep this one. Got a good card in Wasteland. Obviously, having a Bazaar opener with a Benjavine and Root Wall to boot is very good, and on the draw to boot. So, not that you want to be on the draw, but we're going to have that extra card in our hand, which might matter. My opponent did mulligan. These matchups are fairly intricate when you're playing mirrors, and sometimes it's just like you get blown out with your opponent having a crazy turn 1 opener. You're just not able to catch up. Other times they turn into really grindy matchups. Okay, they have the hollow one. I don't think I'm going to bigger that here. I think I'm going to take the opportunity to Wasteland. That's not a huge amount of pressure for us. And of course, this deck is not 100% reliant on the Bazaar, but I think given that's all they did, it might be worth just taking that away. And we'll take 4 here. That was a good draw for us. How greedy do I want to be, guys? I definitely like that second Vengevine, but I feel like we need to take the hollow one here. They might have their own Force of Vigor, but I think we just need to ensure we're going to have an answer. Now, do I just Wasteland them again here? They didn't do anything there. I think I will. And I might be a little bit more apt to Vigor them now, because the Vigor and the Collector Roof are both fairly low impact, and I don't want to lose the damage race here. Now, where this becomes awkward, and it's a very realistic possibility, is if my opponent actually has a Root Walla here, and then they go Cradle into something like Hex Trigger. That puts a lot of pressure on me. And I'd be far more apt to get rid of this hollow one in the upkeep if that's the case. I may even want to just do it even if they don't drop anything into play here, because um, taking them off a Gaia's Cradle is pretty important. Oh, interesting. Okay. I believe I'm going to do that. Now, it looks bad if my opponent bazaars into a second hollow one or something like that, but I don't think that there's much I can do about that. Nothing. Okay. Let's get busy living our life then. Okay, my opponent is conceded. So we have a pretty strong bazaar graveyard, or graveyard sideboard here. The problem is that the majority of these are not fantastic against what my opponent is playing. That's the problem. I could see maybe bringing a couple surgicals in. I don't like Pithing Needle that much. Beseju's okay. Don't really like all my Force of Vigors. I think Collector Roof is fairly poor. So Surgical Extraction is, if I get the Bazaars out of their deck, you know what, maybe it's just worth playing more of them. So I'm the one that's in control of what's happening from my opponent's perspective. Look, their deck is not reliant on Bazaar of Baghdad. Okay, so Surgicling it is not as deterministic as it is against every other type of Bazaar deck. That said, we may be able to get rid of hollow ones. We may be able to dictate, getting rid of, Bazaar Bagdads, making them play fair. Um, you know, it it could be okay. The question is like, what do we want to cut here? I could see maybe cutting a Boseiju. You know what I like about Boseiju is Boseiju is actually a way to a backdoor way of getting rid of Hollow One. I think I'm going to cut my Vigors. Maybe I'll keep a Vigor, something like this. I just feel like Force of Vigor is a really low impact card, and yes, there are times where it can be good, but let's try this. Okay, what do I think about this? Kind of powder. I don't like getting rid of the double vine there, but Mulligan here. Powder. Hmm. Okay, it's pretty awkward. Try this. There's a high upside if I can hit with my Once Upon a Time into a Bazaar for keeping the hollow one. That's why I've done it, because I'm so far behind. I feel like I need to gamble. Endurance may be a necessary evil. Oh, interesting. Okay. Hmm. Given the construct of my hand, I'm not even sure I want a Bazaar. Hmm. Misstep would ruin me here. It would make this a really bad decision, but they have it, and if they wasteland this, I'm in a really bad spot. But that would take a fair amount of discipline from my opponent, not knowing whether I have a Bazaar or not. I see the wasteland, I get scared, don't want to play my Bazaar. And we'll see how greedy of a line that was for me taking the Gaia's Cradle here. Okay, I like it. They did not waste my Boseiju here. Will they waste my Cradle? They have to be fairly scared of a Hex Drinker here. I can put this thing into a 4/4 next turn, which is pretty strong. I expect they will waste me here, but hopefully they don't. And if they do, we have a chance of drawing a land off the top that can pump my Hex Drinker up to a strong position. Ooh, yuck. Okay. I do think they waste me here, but they didn't before. They might not now, but they have the superior board state by a significant margin. Okay. They should have done it in the stack if they were going to do it here. We are losing here because they have more creatures here. Like, they know I'm not going to trade with their guy here. They know I don't have a Bazaar in hand now. Like, they must be thinking I'm absolutely petrified of them if that's the case. That wasteland until I find a wasteland, which is not likely. So I don't know. We'll see. Like, as I said the last match, like, it's my opponent's mistake to make. And one of the ways that I get back into this game, yeah, see, they're on their pump plan too, and I am losing here. So now they did it. Yeah, we're in pretty bad spot, guys. And I can waste my Cradle now, or my Boseiju. Yep. Definitely just like the fact that they offered up that trade to me is crazy. They shouldn't have done that. I'm still in trouble here, but like a Bazaar of Baghdad or a Gaia's Cradle, and I'm kind of back in this. My opponent has low card equity here. Okay, well, not ideal, but they can attack with everything here with impunity, unfortunately, because I can't really block anything. So I guess it's kind of Bazaar, Cradle, or bust. Not happy about this, but 2 life, yeah. Okay. I think I will bring in the extra Force of Vigor here. You know what? No, I'm not. Or maybe I am. I think this is good. I think this is a good spot for me. The thing is that the Moxes are not really that good in this matchup. Maybe I can just bring in the extra Boseiju. Like, it's not really why I have them, you know what I mean? This is a nice looking hand. Okay, it's pretty good. We're going to get a turn 1 Vine going, which makes me happy. I am coming off of the Endurance here. I did not have to pitch both of these creatures to get the Vine going, but because I drew the Mox Ruby, I'm a little bit more apt to want to do this. And we'll pass turn here. I will not play out the Mox Ruby because I don't want my opponent to have an extra Force of Vigor here. So they may go after my Hollow one here. Definitely a strong start from me, though. Oh, no! Got burned pretty hard there. They got double Vine in the yard. Hopefully they can't bring it back. They can. All right. Better start for my opponent. Yeah. I 100% will block here because of the presence of Force of Vigor. Maybe should have played out my Lotus first. If there's some world where they have a Noxious Revival or something like that. I could Besage this. But I think I like how good is that for me? Right, 2 gone. One, so it's not really that good. We're kind of at parity, right, doing that? That's the question. Do I attack in here? I'm the one who has a Bazaar here. I can attack. And if they want to trade with their Hollow One, I think it's okay. Do I just want my Bazaar to die? Yeah, I think the Besage has value here. I'd love this trade. I'll trade my Blazing Root Walla for that. And not a thing you see out of Cradlevine very often, right? Like I bet you my opponent didn't see that. I mean, we got to get in, right? My opponent wants to trade, so be it. I think I'll hold on the Beseju here. I will play it next turn to pump my Root Wall if they don't do anything. Yeah, that's D's. Okay. I have to hope they don't have a Gaia's Cradle here. Okay, that's good. Oh, they had it! Oh no! Yep. Not much I can do there. They did have it. All right. Well, that's advantage them now. We're going to need some help, I think. Can I go wide on them here? I can put them down to 3 and recast another Root Walla. I do have a Vengevine in my yard of note. I think I'm going to bide my time for a turn here. Because if there's a way we can get that Vengevine going, that could just really take over this game. Ooh, that's okay. It's scary, but I have to do it. We did find a bazaar. I mean, I think we go for it, right? Have to hope. Do I do this? I think so. It's a little rough. My opponent has a Force of Vigor here, but well, this is a good block for me if they don't kill my Blazing Basking Root Wall here. Yep, that's the correct block. Yep, smart block. Now let's see what they do here. They don't have a ton of mana. Yeah, that's a good one. Really want to dodge a Bazaar here. Bazaar is the card that scares me the most because it's their best way to deploy multiple creatures at once, and they do have a vine in their yard, so I think there's a reasonable chance we lose if that happens. Looks like we got a bit lucky there. I mean, as I said at the beginning of this video, it's such a chess match at times playing this out. My opponent had the big trump card there, but they couldn't beat the swarm coming in, and of course, we found a Bazaar of Baghdad to be able to facilitate that, but very interesting game. Definitely one that's worthy of going back to watch a little bit later to see if I could have nuanced it a little bit better. I think the one thing that stands out to me was that my choice in game one, or in game two actually, where I did the Once Upon a Time and I took the Gaia's Cradle instead of the Bazaar of Baghdad, hoping to facilitate one of my 3 Hex Drinkers into a game-winning play. I believe that was likely the wrong play, and certainly in hindsight it was, knowing my opponent had a Wasteland and that we weren't going to be able to get that engine going. And it could have been a disaster in the line that I talked about where my opponent misstepped my first Hex Drinker, wastelanded my Yavimaya Cradle of Growth, and then the Gaia's Cradle was useless. My opponent did not take that line, but they could have absolutely ruined me there. So I think that was a mistake. And of course, several turns later, believe you me, I wish I had a Bizarre Baghdad. But regardless, guys, we got there. We'll see you next round. Okay, guys, here we are in round 3 of the Vintage Preliminary. We've won our die roll for the first time tonight. I think this is fine. It's a little bit awkward with these powders, But I mean, I think we keep it. The Black Lotus is really what makes this tick. Yeah, I mean, we kind of just got to get it going, right? This is not great. Have to hope my opponent is not playing combo of some sort and playing a fair deck. Like Wasteland Go is very good for me. I will play out the Black Lotus here. Just in case it's something like Shops, I'd be feeling really sorry for myself if they did that. If they dropped a sphere or something like that. No, it wouldn't be a bad. I would be probably reasonably pleased with that if that happened, but there's no reason to have that happen to us. Would have loved, absolutely loved to have found a Collector Roof there. That's like one of your strongest plays off the Black Lotus, right? Is finding Collector Roof. Or Chalice of the Void would have been nice. Okay, we got a Black Lotus. That's probably pretty scary. Uh-oh. Collector Roof would have been looking very strong here. Yep. Let's just hope they find a land. Lavinia, you gotta be kidding. That's pretty brutal, isn't it? Yeah, we're in a world of hurt here. And this is the difference of when you play something like, the control version of this deck that has the squeeze in it. It has counter spells to be able to fight this sort of thing. For us, we are just so much colder to what my opponent is doing. As I say, if we had a Collector Roof that resolved, we likely win this game. But we didn't have one, and we didn't really know what we were playing against. But identified with the Lotus that that's the combination you want. Oh, well, okay. I mean, that's a good one. They have a main deck Sphinx or Blightsteel. Very strong start from my opponent. My goodness. I don't know this player's name. I've never seen them before. So we'll put them to the test, see how well they know this deck. Despite Vintage is somewhat self-propelling, as in you can cast your spells and they're very powerful and you can just win picking up any particular deck. I would not say that in nuanced positions that will work for a newer player. Now, I mean, this is relatively straightforward. It's obvious I don't have anything going on here, but let's see. I can't pick anything right now that identifies to me that they are novice. Could be an alt account for someone as well. Could be a non-vintage player at all. I didn't see any results for them. This just looks like an Esper Tinker to me. Time Walk, okay. Time Vault. Yep. All right. Nice clean win for my opponent on turn one. That was not even a game. I actually, believe it or not, don't think the Hexdrinker is terrible. I think this is what I want to do. All right. See if we can do a bit better this game. Well, we have turn one Collector if we can find it. We've got Force of Vigor. The hand is pretty underpowering here otherwise, though. But we got a chance at Bazaar to turn these things on. We can cast a Bazaar, Once Upon a Time the following turn, looking for a Bazaar if we don't find it. I think we keep it. It's a little bit awkward. And we've got the Force of Vigor to back it up. If all else fails, right? Okay, so the opponent did play Leyline, and that to me, despite I have a Vengevine in my hand, does point to some level of not being familiar with the matchup because my deck is very unreliant on the graveyard. I did not do well here, did I? Do it again. For those of you unaware, Leyline of the Void only really hits Vengevines in my deck. I do have one solo Bloodghast in my deck today. And some people play Bloodghast and their versions, and certainly the old, Jund versions of Hogak that are out of style right now are more vulnerable to Leyline of the Void than my deck is, but I'm pretty happy to see it. Yeah, I mean, okay. Do I play the Boseiju here? I don't think so. One of the ways I lose is Tinker into Sphinx of the Steel Wind, and having Boseiju is pretty good. Lavinya's not doing that much in this particular game state. Hmm. I maybe wanted to respond to this. Like, I don't have a Bazaar, but now that Lavinya's in play, there's not a lot I can do. What if they have a Tinker here? I'm going to gamble that they don't. I'm going to gamble they don't. I feel like I have to start getting myself ahead here. Me not being able to cycle my Holo one is not good for me. I obviously wish I had done it last turn, but that's okay. In hopes of that maybe I drew an extra land now, but I was not expecting Lavinia to come down. And Lavinia is a good card when you're playing the Bazaar version. It shuts off my Hollow Ones and my Root Wallows. But my deck, of course, you saw in round one, can cast its spells against Lavinia, as it has a fairly robust mana base. Swords to Plowshares scares me here. In hindsight, I probably should have Force of Vigor, the Pithing Needle. And the reason is Tinker. It's not that it's really bothering me, but if I draw Bazaar later, it will bother me somewhat. Chooses to not shuffle. Okay, interesting. They find an Ancestral? They just found a Swords, maybe. Oh, I like that. Hmm. I wonder if they have it. Let's see what they get. Ancestral, likely. I feel like I need to cast Vengevines here, guys. I'm not happy about this, but I feel like I need to start applying pressure. And yeah, if they drop a Saga, I mean, what am I going to do? Yeah, I hope that Pithing Needle being in play does not come back to bite me. Saga would be or Academy would be not great here either, but I mean, what am I going to do? Okay. I think it's time to start getting busy, guys. This is certainly not optimal, but this is one of the backdoor ways that our deck can start winning. And if we can find a land next turn, we can wasteland. They did not play a land, so if they miss here, We're in decent shape. Yep. Wasteland. That was smart, wasn't it? Okay. Force block next turn. Hmm. I think it's worth paying. If I find a strip mine, it's pretty solid. Do they have a swords? That's the question I have here. I don't think it's worth attacking with the collector roof here. But I think if they had a swords, they would have just opened it up, right? I don't think they have it. I'm calling their bluff. This turns off fetch lands. And that is the main reason that I did this, guys. Fortunately, I cannot cast Force of Vigor. That is a downside. I don't have enough mana to do it. I'm going to cycle and see if I can find a green card here, because I might want to do this in the upkeep. Okay. Okay. Well, fetch land is not turned off because they have my Cradle. I wonder if they didn't know that. Okay. Nice win through Lavinia there. Like, that's what I call a back door or a secondary plan for our deck. We just hard casted Vengevines. We resisted the allure of wastelanding and got with our game plan of casting these, and my opponent just couldn't deal with it. Now, Collector Roof, of course, was the all-star there. Given that my opponent showed us Leyline of the Void and their willingness to bring it in, I am not as keen to have that. I wonder if we want like a extra green card and something that deals with Yawgmoth's Will. I feel like we have enough to be able to deal with the Sphinx of the Steel Wind. Like I was contemplating, do we want the Hex Drinker to be able to get through? But I think what we have here has a good plan. When I was at top eight of, or not top eight, I wish I was top eight. This could have been playing for top eight, but when I was at Champs this year in Philadelphia, I believe it was round six, and I was 4-1 at the time, and I started out 4-0, really strong breakers, and I was on camera, and I was playing against Asper Tinker, and I just got, much like this one, got steamrolled in game one on a non-bizarre hand. It just did not work out. I guess I did have a bizarre in this one, but I tried to go on the back of a collector roof, and I did the same thing in game two with a really nice opener. Like, I believe it was something like Black Lotus into Collector Roof into Hex Drinker or something like that. And, with a waste backup or something like that. But the point of the story is my opponent had a turn one fetch land into Fatal Push and killed my creature. And it was pretty awful. Like, I feel like one of the best ways to beat Esper Tinker is to be able to apply pressure on them, to allow them not to set up their game plan. And yes, they have games sometimes like they did game one in this one where they just had the stone cold nuts and there was nothing I could do about it. But we're a lot stronger to board. And now that we know what we're playing against, right? Like we have defensively, we've got traps on the play here. We've got Force of Vigors on the play to be able to bide us time. We can untap, hopefully cast a Collector Roof. The sad thing for us is we typically can't do it on turn one, although it is possible. And, my opponent's setting a needle on a Bazaar. Yes, it could be good, but that's not always a guarantee against my deck. Okay. It's a nice clean powder. Hmm. We can do better. This allows us potentially to have a turn one Collector Roof. We just put a Bazaar away. Now this hand can fall apart if they're able to resolve the needle. Yeah, like, that's a mulligan, right? Like, it's just so good for me. The Ancestral here would be so sweet if they had that and I could stop it. Okay, let's Once Upon a Time. See if this beats a Fluster. Wow, that's about as close as I've ever come to a brick, to be honest with you guys. Okay. This is really hard, guys. I think I am going to dump the Boseiju here. I really want this Mox Ruby. One, because it applies pressure, and number two, because it is going to give me some Tabernacle insulation. I am 100% keeping up Force of Vigor here. Not sure what's correct in that position. I'm not happy to get rid of the Boseiju, but I think given the context of our hand here, this is probably the best thing. The Mox Ruby is the weakest card of the lot that I held, but it does, as I say, pump the Blazing Root Walla should it resolve. And it, more importantly, gives me insulation from Tabernacle. And my opponent may be on a Tabernacle line having gone this low. So let's see. Force of Vigor may not be very good in this particular situation. I don't know. Let's see what they do. This is one of the issues that you can run into with this particular build of the deck. Fizz Lavinia would be a little bit of disappointment here. Yeah, so we definitely made a mistake here with reference to how we did things against Lavinia, right? But that's okay. I'm not going to wasteland the ley line, or to take the ley line this time. I don't think it's important enough a card. I think we can attack first. Make our decision afterwards. I believe I will pump here. There is the option of trying to find a green land to put Collector Roof into play. I mean, do I do it? I don't think so. That was pretty good, wasn't it? Mental Misstep is not looking overly good right at this particular moment, so I think I can ditch that. Let's see. It's very strong. Now, I did turn off my Mox, I guess, so that's something. I guess I should not be super happy about that. Pithing Needle, okay. Yeah. I'm wondering if I do. I think I do attack with the oof here, guys. It's kind of crazy, but I think that this Mox is so valuable here. And, the Lavinia is a problem somewhat. And my opponent only has 2 cards in hand here. Like, I don't, I could wasteland them here. This allows me to besiege you here if I need to. Yeah, it's precarious. Yep. Okay. Okay. Suck if they have the swords here, but and they do. All right. Well, I mean, it's lethal next turn, so let's see. Yep. That still kills them, though, because they're fetch lands. Yep. So they swords. They have to do it now. And I don't think there's any one card that can kill me here. So I think we gain the life, right? Like, is there a reason to come off the Seiju here? They've already played their land. No, there's not. There's no reason for me to do this, but I'm that confident that there's nothing they can do. Okay, solid one, guys. So we are off to the finals here. We are 3-0 with Cradlevine, and I believe we're actually going to be playing against Doomsday. So that's going to be a tough match, but we have some good tools on our board to help us combat that. So we'll talk about that match in a minute if that's what we're playing against. But appreciate you hanging out with me. If you haven't done so already, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you next round. Okay, guys, here we are for round 4 of the Vintage Prelim. Unfortunately, we did not win the die roll, and we're playing against Doomsday, so that could be quite perilous for us game 1. Really was hoping to be able to win the die roll here. But we are a lot better post-board. We have quite a robust sideboard against Doomsday. So, in my experience against Doomsday, what you're looking to do is to pressure them and disrupt them. Now, of course, that's a very generalized statement because we're looking to do that against every deck. But we want to chip their life total away as fast as we possibly can. Now, this hand is not very good. What it does have going for it is we could turn one Blazing Root Walla into Cradle, into Hex Drinker, which will give us mana to cast a Collector Roof. But that's asking a lot. And I think that's a pretty easy powder. And this is going to be a keep. Very nice. Uh-oh. That's kind of a nightmare seeing that come down. Yep. So we're probably dead turn one here. Yep. Demonic Tutor. Okay. So at least they're Demonic Tutoring into Doomsday. So let's see if they can just kill me here. Still a reasonable chance they can do that. They probably felt somewhat secure trying this against my deck, having seen me powder, knowing that I don't really have any counter magic in my deck. Now, if we don't die here, we still have some hope. But they can just kill us here reasonably easily if they have the cantrip or the street wraith. So 3 cards to have figured it out. Let's see what they got. So they have highlighted the Lotus. I'm not going to focus too much on what they're doing here. I mean, obviously I'll copy their deck and take a look at it. But I'm not going to focus on how they've built their pile until they pass the turn. They're passing. This will allow them to Ancestral in my turn. Oh, guys, we drew the freaking Black Lotus. Okay. So they're on Lotus. We've seen the Ancestral. They have 1 card in hand. I mean, presumably they have another land, but no guarantees there. Let's see how many Underground Seas are here. 1, 2, 3. So there is an Underground Sea, likely their ability to get it. Nope, 1. I didn't see this one. 1, 2, 3, 4 seas, 1 watery grave. So I wonder if they're in on the Lotus, guys. How many Force of Wills? 1, 2. That's the key too, right? Is like, can I actually resolve my stuff? Not likely. Because they've gotten the Ancestral off, I think there's a small chance that we're going to be able to do our business, but let's try. They're just not worried about anything I'm doing here. Okay. I could try and bait them with a hollow one, but it's just not going to work. We just basically need this to resolve, and it didn't. Okay. Yep. We did our best there. Like, we had a really strong turn 1. And if they didn't have the Ancestral there, I think that we had a chance of winning that because they only had 2 cards in hand. I think they drew the Force off the off of it, right? Off the Ancestral. Okay. Don't think we need to worry too much. We do know that they have a watery grave in their deck. So the surgical line of getting them wastelanding their Underground Sea surgical is not going to work on my opponent. Okay, so we have some really nice tools against them here. The Seiju is of minimal value here. I also think Hex Drinker is just too slow to be relevant in this matchup. You know, Endurance and Surgical Extraction are not amazing cards against Doomsday, but they can be very relevant in the right circumstances. I think we want our Moxen because they definitely run Tabernacles. I can see the Bloodcast recurring being good. You know, if they're on Leyline of the Voids, and quite often these decks do side in Leyline of the Void. I'm not sure how competent of a player this opponent is. Like, I think they're a decent Doomsday player, but I'm not sure. I certainly would not consider them on amongst the elite players. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think Besaju is really what I'm looking to do. I don't mind keeping one, just basically as the ability to cast something. I think I like all of these tools. I really like Once Upon a Time too. I'm going to take out my Besajus, guys. All right. I think this is reasonable. It's not amazing, but we have some tools here. The problem with this hand is it's a very defensive hand. But maybe between these cards we can catch our opponent off guard. I'm not thrilled with this hand, but obviously Once Upon a Time can shape this up. Opponent is down to 5 here. All right, so this was really what I would deem to be a brick, but I think that's all right. My opponent is probably just thrilled to death to see my Wasteland there, not a Bazaar. They got an Ancestral, that would be unfortunate. Yep. It feels a little bit bad, but I can't play around days here. We just have to get going. Okay. Wonder if they just have removal here. See if we can sneak a couple in. I could have tried to sneak the endurance in here, but I think that's okay. I'm just probably gonna. Obviously, a delve spell is a really feel bad if they have it, but would require another fetch land from them, which is possible. Hmm. I'm going to do it now because this increases my chances. Of Mindbreak Trap getting turned on. Like if they go Dark Ritual into Shieldred or something like that, like I want to start my fight now. I think they have removal here. That's what this feels like for my oof. But I mean, what are you going to do? 6 cards, yeah. It is Dark Ritual. Okay. Well, Mindbreak Trap is on here. Yeah, don't feel good about this. All right. Nothing I can do. I shouldn't have done the endurance here. Let's see. Okay, good. Okay, that was big. I feel like I do unfortunately have to wasteland them here. I'm really keen to that like Shieldred is just so difficult for me to beat. Reasonable block. Now, is there any reason to take their underground seas here? I feel like there is. Oh, I got one out of their hand, guys. What do they got here? They have been running Tabernacle? Yes, they have one tab. Double Doomsday. Okay. Can't play around days here. I just got to get living here. Trying to kill my opponent. It's a bit of a beating if they have it, but I mean, it just is what it is. And now next turn a land allows me to pump my root walla. I mean, this is more than lethal next turn. All right. So, some interesting decision points there. I feel like my timing might have been off on that endurance a little bit. I had an idea of what I was doing. I don't think it, well, obviously it didn't pan out, but the surgical line did actually end up working out pretty well, so I'm happy with that. I think I want the Dismember because of Shieldred. Shieldred is just a problematic card for me. I'm going to get rid of the Bloodghast because they keep presenting me with Leyline. I don't truly know that they're on Shieldred, but we could want a couple Hex Drinkers here. The question is what does it come at the expense of? That's really the issue I have. Because my deck, if they are on Shieldred, and I wasn't really thinking about it earlier, my deck does not push through a Shieldred properly. Yeah, I can cut a Once Upon a Time. Maybe a Blazing Root Walla. Let's try this. This is a little bit suspect for sure, but I think I want a plan to be able to dress Shieldred. So I am showing Mindbreak Trap here when I powder this. Okay. That's a scary card, guys. Doomsday. Yeah. All right. The good news is that we're very likely to get a Bizarre activation here, which can help clean up our hand. I am thinking about Once Upon a Time here in that it does pitch to Endurance. And we are unlikely to find an Endurance and a green card here. It's possible, I guess, because if we find an Endurance off the Once Upon a Time. Okay, it looks like they're highlighting the Black Lotus here again. I mean, it's possible that we're dead here, but I don't think it likely because they're on the Ancestral line with no land in play. Or with a land in play. So yeah, I think I am going to Once Upon a Time here. This is about to get really intricate, guys, because my opponent has gone in here. Now, they have 5 cards in hand. Like, this is pretty scary. They have, like, Black Lotus here into Doomsday on turn 1, but it's intricate. My opponent only will have so many tools to work with here. And we could lose from this position, but I think it's going to be hard having 2 solid pieces of interaction and Mental Misstep and Surgical Extraction. But certainly possible. There's also the option of potentially wastelanding. I think we'll have to see what my opponent has done here. I could wasteland and surgical them. You know, if we go the Bazaar route, we could find something like Once Upon a Time, Collector Roof. We could Bazaar this turn, try and survive between the surgical and the misstep if it gets past to us the turn, and then get a Gaia's Cradle into Collector Roof. That is a possibility. Okay, so we know they have a Black Lotus. There's one Oracle. Oh, they did not do Ancestral. Okay. They must be doing Street Race. They have no land, eh? Well, what does that mean? Must have one land in hand? That was not a good draw, unfortunately. Jesus. Okay. Oh, we hit a Chalice, guys. Wow. Chalice was so king here. Okay, now we need to pay some attention because we need to figure out whether we surgical or Chalice first. 2, 3 forces. So there's a force of will somewhere in there. We know they have a Lotus. 1 C, Grave, 2 Cs, 3 Cs. They don't have a Gush, which to me indicates, unless they cut the Gush, they may have. I think we surgical first. They do have the force of will, so they let me do it. So they got the force of will in hand. It's not going to get through the Chalice. The Chalice will not resolve. Yeah, we probably die here. Nothing we can do about it. We got to try and do it. Very smart from my opponent there, the way they built their pile. We're not going to have enough to get through that because basically they draw any of those things they can cycle through their deck, right? Now, we had a Vengevine here. That might have done it. That Chalice was so key there, but anyways, we get a turn next turn. Well, maybe we don't, but yep, there it is. Two cards. Okay. Okay, well played. Well played. All right, guys, a nice clean 3-1 for us. We did pick up the extra 20 QPs that we needed, but disappointing to falter there right at the end. But it is what it is. That's the nuance of when you play against a deck like Doomsday. They're just it comes down to the wire of nuance, and I don't think I played that incorrectly. Um, I fired off the surgical to see if I could find out whether my chalice was going to resolve, and really it was an exercise of restraint from my opponent in that they built themselves, first of all, a very good pile that was resistant to surgical extraction for the most part, because spinning their library didn't matter. They had enough life. Now, of course, a Vengevine would have changed that equation. Had I had a Vengevine, I don't think that they would have been able to do that. But you got to play to your outs, or endurance. Endurance would have messed that up for sure. Um, but I mean, that's all conjecture and hearsay. They built the pile playing around what I think surgical extraction was built, uh, meant to mess up. And anyways, it got them there. But we did have quite an exorbitant board for Doomsday with 4 surgical, 4 endurance, and 3 mind break trap. Pretty solid. Anyways, guys, all that said, not too much to say about the list here. I mean, this is just a very solid list. I like the build right now, and we'll take a solid 3-1. Hope you guys enjoy the videos. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We're going to see you next time, guys.